my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
So just as I say we aren't going to let any dogs or water hoses turn us around, we aren't going to let any injunction turn us around. Well, I don't know what will happen now, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop.
The future doesn't belong to the faint-hearted. It belongs to the brave.
Come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite.
Now, there's one thing you might have noticed I don't complain about. Politicians.
Governments don't live together, people live together. Governments, you don't always get a fair word or a fair fight. Well, I've come here to give you either one, or get either one from you.
That's totally taken out of context.
Well, not really.
That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up,
T-minus 1 minute.
live out the true meaning of its creed.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
T-minus 50 seconds.
I am paying for this microphone, Mr.
Every dollar released from taxation
T-minus 40 seconds.
that is spent or invested will help create a new job.
Chivalry is dead, and women killed it.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines.
T-minus 20 seconds.
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing ground and in the streets.
10, 9,
We shall fight
8,
in the hills.
6,
We shall never surrender!
3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, welcome to the Problem Solver Politics live stream. Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Cardin Ellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And one could say that with the Rona, it's bringing out the best and the worst of us. 'Twas the worst of times, 'twas the best of times. And one of the best things to come out of remote educational learning are the plethora of Zoom chats and Zoom chat mistakes that are now floating around the internet. You got to see these. It's freaking hilarious. Cody, tell us what's going on.
Yes. First of all, I think it's is it Garrett Go? I think he said he actually tested positive. Best wishes, man. Hopefully, anyone in the chat that is currently dealing with the stuff that has it or someone has it, best wishes to everyone. It's crazy right now because we don't know what's going on. But yes, hope you all the best, man. Anyway, though, I wanted to get into this as one of like you said, I've been seeing a lot of goofy stuff going on the internet because of coronavirus. You always wonder what's real, what's fake, what's the setup. I mean, I think there was a video someone posted the other day of a bunch of like people like singing Biggie songs in New York that were just fake.
Oh, bummer.
I mean, I got a pro tip for you guys out there. 95% of the time, if you watch a video clip and they go, "That's unbelievable," yeah, it's almost as if it didn't really happen. Anyway, that aside, I don't know if it's fake or real or not. This looks like it'd be harder to fake than a lot of other things I've seen done. So we're gonna watch this clip really quickly. This is the reason why I'll run the clip and then I'll get into what I want to talk about after. So here we go. Here's our research for today.
Positive and negative. Is it always?
Sorry for that. Sorry about the headphones.
Like react in a non-spontaneous characteristic.
No, it would be spontaneous. If
Shut the up, Mom! I'm in a class! I just asked a question. Shut up, Mom! Shut up, okay? I'll do my laundry after class! Actually, no, do my wife's just because you're interrupting Professor Phillip.
Sorry, sir. So yeah, if it's positive and negative, is it always spontaneous?
Gotta be fake. Is it?
Yeah, if the entropy is negative and the entropy is positive, will always result in a process.
No, Mom, I didn't buy any dryer sheets. Buy them yourself.
So yeah, spontaneous.
Yeah, but
okay. So I see a lot of people in the chat. Oh, light was off. How could I saw people in chat already talking about if that's real. Here's I will put my, because again, this is just it gets to something I want to talk about for real though. First of all, is it real or fake? People said, why would they be filming? I'm just saying, in his defense, what if the kid was yelling a little bit before and the guy's like, I gotta film this?
Yeah.
Like they filmed the screen, it wasn't screen captured. I don't know. I would err on the side of that looks more real than not, especially because I've seen and heard people doing it playing video games. But the reason why I wanted to bring that up is because something you know what? A big. I think we back. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, we just had a little internet outage. I don't know if it's an outage. I believe we back now. Either way, we're back. We back, guys. We back. Yeah, sorry about that. I think our internet just briefly went out there for a minute, but
thanks for all the F's in the chat.
We are back now. Hopefully I don't have coronavirus.
Alan G makes a good comment because you just switched to me, and the only thing I really had to highlight, Alan G pointed out that you are, quote, crushing it with that deep V, dog. Killing it with the deep V.
You're too kind.
His fashion, Brittany the Shadow wishes that I would dress.
Oh,
like
hold on though. I believe it was somewhat fake. So was it more of a prank then? Someone said the video of the guy screaming his Nintendo Nelk. I think he crashed the streams though. So I think that's what we found here. That makes more sense. That's the other thing I wanted to get into with the Zoom stuff. So I think that's kind of a good segue. That's the second issue we're having is. Actually, I had a few that I've seen that I can't even really show on the stream today, but we've also seen that problem people are having too, where people are, I guess Zoom doesn't really have very good.
No, you can send the link to a friend, and as long as the friend clicks on it, then you're just in.
There seems to be this issue that a lot of platforms
It's like wedding crashing digitally.
Because you probably could have a very secure room, but you're not going to get all the kids in your classroom on it.
And who knows all the kids in their classroom if you're a professor?
Exactly. But you're not going to get. It's like there's Anybody who's had to explain how to use a computer of any level to anyone is not super. You'd be surprised. You'd be like, oh no, you just click on this link and it'll take you to a thing, and then all you have to do is put in like the last 4 numbers of your student code. And what?
Yeah.
I can't see it. What do I do? Do I click? And so they're like, just follow the link. I'll make it as easy as possible. And people are getting in. But I don't know, man. That's the little bit of stuff that's changing about life every day that's kind of worrying me, is seeing stuff like this. We're going to see a lot of pranks, a lot of jokester stuff like this, obviously, up front. But there's a lot of other stuff going on that's a little bit less. Here we go. I want to see if
Emily
I can find
Kinsley, while you're looking for that, brings up a good point. Says you guys should do a virtual town hall with all the pro UBI candidates.
Yeah, no,
that would be cool if we zoomed something like that.
Yeah, well, I'm working too. I think someone actually just reached out to me, left a message. I have to get back to them. Somebody who's running as well. A couple people we're going to get to. But something else that was funny. So we're going to move on to the next thing here, which is that a lot of people are going a little bit, I don't know if stir crazy is the best word for this, but people are kind of starting to share a little bit too much. So that was just funny. This comes from, I don't know too much about this source. However, I can say this. They're alleging here, this is a link to an article right here. They're alleging here that the I think it was the mayor of Raleigh, North Carolina, it's a real city, by the way, it's a big city, accidentally posted, it's definitely a vaporizer pen. I can confirm that.
Yeah.
Is it marijuana in the who can say? I can tell you one thing though. I haven't seen.
It's for quote tobacco use only.
I used to work at a store where we sold these things 8 years ago, 7 years ago, a long time ago. Anyway, when this stuff started, that might have been common to see somebody smoking nicotine out of 7, 6, 7, 8, maybe even 5 years ago. Nowadays, man, I don't know. But we're seeing, this is the mayor of Raleigh, North Carolina. The reason why I brought this up accidentally putting your weed pen in the picture of your supporting local businesses thing is pretty funny. But we've seen, I don't even have it, but my God, have you seen the video of the woman who, she's recording herself on Zoom, go to the bathroom. Again, how many of these are pranks?
No.
How many of these are real? Who knows? But I think we're going to learn very quickly the pitfalls of this. Oh, we could just do everything remotely. We could do remote this, remote that. I don't have it saved. Oh my God, did the high school is having their graduation on Roblox? I'm going to pull it up. You guys see
on
that?
Roblox?
There's a high school. I think it was a high school. Let me look. Roblox. But all I know is that this seems to be the biggest nightmare world I've ever seen in my life right now. What's coming from this nonsense coming out of the coronavirus stuff. I mean, your entire life now is like, you're going to have to sit in your room, in your house. That's your classroom now, is your bedroom. And yeah, look at this. This is on Roblox.com. Supporting parents with kids at home during coronavirus. Oh no, hold on. This isn't the Roblox graduation. Let me see if I can pull the Roblox graduation. Oh, here we go. I think we can go to Reddit, I guess. Again, I don't know how much of that's real, how much of this is jokes, but this is what we're heading towards. We're heading towards doing things. I don't know, man. It's kind of like, imagine working remotely. Imagine being able to do class from my room. I think we're going to find out what that's actually like, man. That's like bringing everything into your bedroom. I don't know.
Dude, it kind of makes you kind of wonder, you know what I'm saying? You know how when we used to talk
this
about
bothers me. I have to admit, I feel bad for these kids that if they're upset that they have to graduate through Roblox. I get that we can't do it in person. I understand that.
Wait,
right?
so do you choose an avatar?
I have no idea.
Or
now this, as far as I know, I haven't seen it debunked or anything. But I guess a VR graduation. If you could distribute VR headsets, that'd be kind of cool. I mean, wouldn't,
but the expense involved getting 800 VR headsets to that'd be crazy.
It depends on the headset you use.
I do feel bad for all the kids that are doing senior level athletics, where all of a sudden their school year and their sports year just ended. You know what I'm saying? I do definitely. My heart goes out to those guys. But graduating in Roblox.
Yeah, but I don't know. I thought
it does make you wonder, though. These video game platforms are so complete and so efficient that what, you don't think that's? Oh, come on. You could probably get on a Call of Duty server from anywhere in the world. If you want to talk to one of your friends, there's probably a better chance that it'll be a Call of Duty server that you both could get on than a cell connection.
Hold on, was I duped again? It seems that they're claiming this is debunked, but dude, they can't hold graduations in person. They have to have them somewhere. I don't know if they're gonna do them on Roblox. I don't know. First of all, I got to say one thing. It's hilarious. Everything's fake when you look into it. But this is all stuff that is actually happening going on. There's way too much stuff going digital. Everything's going remote. We're going to be live streaming. Like,
well, my kids have done all of their occupational therapy, have done all of their behavioral therapy, their post-cancer therapy, and now doing all of their instruction. Our school distributed a bunch of iPads.
Yeah.
So the elementary school not iPads, but tablets and Chromebooks. And what I find interesting is my mother's a 28, 30-year veteran of public education. She just retired. So I've set a goal of teaching my son to read. He's a kindergartner, but I was like, you need to learn how to read, bro. If we're going to play Pokemon and we're going to be reading comic books, you got to know how to read. So he's doing his 50 sight words a day.
If you want to teach your kid how to read, work for me, work for my brothers, work for countless people I've known in my life. Yeah, just get him playing Pokemon. You learn to read. You learn to read real quick when you have to read to play the game.
Yeah,
exactly. There's a lot of words I first encountered playing Pokemon. Psychic, that was a word I first encountered in Pokemon. And then also like the nice thing too is as a kid you're able to kind of, a lot of the game's visual and you're able to kind of just glom on to like things that are happening, and you're actually able to start using context clues to kind of figure out what words mean very early on. I don't know. I definitely think I'm not on the board of like all video games are like good uses of time, but like kids learning to read, engaging them in video games to learn to read doesn't sound that crazy to me. That sounds pretty logical. Anyway though, so we've gone through all the goofy prank stuff. This is the other weird end of what's going on though with this coronavirus stuff. One, everyone's turning into pranksters in their house all day, pumping all kinds of stuff out there. But the thing that's scary too is that, dude, you saw when they were pranking that Zoom chat, everybody's webcam was off. Yeah, like it's going to be. And then how do they know you're actually there? How do they know? I'll just turn my monitor. I'll just turn my Zoom on, turn off my webcam, and leave. I don't know. But this is the other funny stuff. We're seeing around the world other interesting approaches to this. I like this one, by the way. Shout out to this guy. The police officer is wearing a specially constructed coronavirus helmet to warn people to stay inside.
That's epic.
You see the video of the dude caning people?
No.
Oh yeah.
Show me.
I don't have it open, but that's the other. That's also what's going on in India. So this is the happy side, but this is something I brought up because I thought this was kind of funny. But it reminded me of something else. So the story going back to March 13th, I guess. Yes.
Okay.
This is from Nerdist, and it says Egyptian TV host interviewed pinhead-esque coronavirus. This is the best one. This is the best. This is the best thing we've seen from the people jumping on coronavirus stuff. As far as I'm telling you guys, all the stuff I've showed you has been kind of goofy and it's been kind of quasi-real. As far as I know, I've looked into it. This legitimately happened. Now, I think it was obviously in jest. I don't think it was legitimately to interview the coronavirus, but This is my favorite one so far. Doing the pinhead design for coronavirus, man. That's an A+ in my book. So that's just some of the weird, ridiculous, goofy stuff that I've noticed just over the last few days. During the streams, I like to kind of just talk about stuff that obviously it's hard to do videos on this stuff. Like a lot of it we've looked was kind of bogus or half real or pranks. There's a lot of stuff. There's a reason why I wouldn't do videos on this stuff, but just goofy things I like to bring up and talk about. But there really is I think you can get to a general sense of people are starting to go a little mad online being locked inside all the time. However, this, as far as I know, I have done my looking into. This is real, guys, and this is what we almost did do a video on. So this is kind of like a half video. But I believe these are CDC. They don't have it on this graph. I believe these are CDC figures. Apparently, just not going outside is plummeting the death rates in this country to the point where we're at a 5-year low for weekly deaths, I believe. Yes, in general. Being all the way down just because people aren't going outside really. Now, obviously the one thing that jumps to my mind, is driving that deadly? Do we really see 10,000 or 7,000 auto deaths a week?
Yeah.
Which honestly, if you had told me 2 years ago 7,000 people die a week of auto, I might call baloney on 7,000 people a week dying.
Baloney.
Dude, that's a crazy high figure. But somehow you'll notice the figure has been just kind of dropping as we've over the last couple weeks as these lockdowns have been expanding and going into place more. The reason behind this, it can't all be driving, but it really does puzzle me. What else could it be though? Maybe people being outside, there's just less accidents in general, less people falling off ladders, less people.
Well, it's just the general chill out. The fact that everything has literally just come to, like, I don't want to say a screeching halt, but is the world is just shut down. And if that's what is required in order to have accidents is working,
Whoa.
and if what's required in order to gain communicable diseases is communication with other people, then of course it's going to plummet. And this is actually really interesting to me because I remember I had said, I'm so curious. I said this 2 weeks ago. I'm so curious to see what the data is for how many flu deaths we don't have. We're so worried about the corona, you know what I'm saying, that we're not forgetting, but that in our desire to stop the spread of the Rona, we're going to accidentally be stopping the spread of a billion other diseases that we've just gotten used to. I mean, the flu will kill 50,000 people in a bad year. You know, it'll kill 50,000 people in a bad year, and think how many less people die.
Well, but this is okay, but this is scary then. Are we just providing evidence that, like, well, technically to preserve life, nobody should ever leave. We should all just live in our houses.
Well, I
mean, because the numbers seem to bear. I wouldn't be surprised if this is an anomaly, as long as the lockdowns remain in place. Because, by the way, this is all death totals. What are they? What acute pneumonia would count in there, right? Like coronavirus deaths would count in this list, and you're still seeing it plummet. I wonder if we do just figure out.
Yeah.
I don't see it happening. I mean, yeah, it's obviously safer to stay inside, but I wonder how many people really will kind of take to heart not just the data points like this, but just how many people, if these are 3-4 month lockdowns, aren't necessarily going to want to burst out of the house as soon as they lift. We've seen in China, in Wuhan, when they're opening the city up, not everybody, people are still masked up. Everything, like, it's not like, oh, yay, life's normal again. I mean, this looks like it'll be a lingering thing because, yes, there is safety in staying home, and we're seeing it right here. How many people are going to just fall into that safety and say, no, I'm safe at home? How many people aren't going to believe coronavirus isn't still out there for a while if it's out there long enough? Because I have to be honest. I mean, we were talking earlier, those fake tests that get passed around, the phony tests. Like, what would be scarier? To know that they're making fake tests on purpose, or they can't make real tests that are accurate because they don't know how? Like, I don't know. What's worse? I don't know. This is some of the stuff, the pranks and stuff. Those are funny. This is kind of less funny the more I think about it. I mean, like, that is an insane drop off. That gigantic drop right there between those 2 points is literally the amount of lives that are lost every single week.
Yeah.
Over just being alive outside in the world, living lives.
Well, we really do. We really will have to self-analyze.
And that's got to be low. Think about throughout human history. Probably, like, in general, people died to horse accidents more.
Well, in times like this, I quote The Rock. Do you remember the movie The Rock?
Of course I remember The Rock.
It was about Alcatraz with Sean Connery, right? Okay. I remember there was a moment where the president was asked, you know, do you either bomb the island or do you let the pathogen out and so on and so forth? And he literally said, how does one measure human life? You know? And if you wanted to be extremely cynical, you could say, okay, let the Rona go through. Less deaths than the flu. Hey, sometimes 50,000 people die in our country due to illnesses, and we don't even bat an eye. You know what I'm saying? And that there's an economic argument that's got to be preserved. Everybody do your best, but hey, boom, let's rock and roll, you know? And then there's also the extreme argument where the soundbite sounds good, saying all of these measures, if it could even stop one life, it was worth it. But we can't be taking that attitude, or else all of our speed limits would be 5 miles per hour. We wouldn't be allowed to have natural gas in our house. How many natural gas explosions start fires and kill lives? But we're not allowed to cook. You know, so this idea that measures in order to preserve life and cripple and eliminate risk in the hopes of preserving more life is really something we have to do. That's also off the table as well. Or else we couldn't be human beings. We couldn't have a functional day. Nothing could get manufactured. Nothing could get consumed. We would all just be living in houses that didn't exist and couldn't even get repaired or built because you might have to go on a ladder in order to get to the roof. And guess what? Falls from ladders are the most common workplace injury. Okay? So I think what's going to happen is this is the first media-fueled pandemic that we had. It's the first media-fueled
Oh my
one.
God! You know what? Hold on a second.
Where there's widespread.
No, but I need to remind you. You got to remind the people in Iran and China that it's the American media driving.
No,
the
I didn't
hysteria
say
in
the
their
American
countries.
media. This is the really, really first time that we had true, complete globalism when it comes to the passage of information. One could say during swine flu and H1N1 there was, but there wasn't as much centralized power in some of the major players. Okay. And they didn't have the algorithms down yet. They didn't have the system down yet. The internet was still new enough in the early 2000s that it was not completely as influential as it is now. Okay. Within 2 minutes, I can see what somebody in Italy's posting. And so I think what happens is the world leaders obviously are freaked out by this. And we've put all these measures in place, and we're going to glean an insane amount of data and then have to figure out what we feel comfortable with in terms of risking in the future.
The world leaders aren't just freaked out by this. They have it.
Well,
Boris
they don't-
Johnson has it. Benjamin Netanyahu, I think just today, went into quarantine because he thinks he has it. I believe Angela Merkel has been under self-quarantine because she believes. I think correct me if I'm wrong, this might. I don't want to say this might not be true, but all I know is I do know Angela Merkel, I believe, was in contact with somebody who did have coronavirus, and she is self-isolated. Like, it isn't like this is like one of those things that's like it's kind of happening over. It's like it's happening in state buildings across the world. I mean, it's hitting close to home, so to speak, for like the leaders of countries. It isn't just the media is rattling people up because. Dude, the media is so stupid. They literally there's like two wings of the media that just fight with each other all day and get nothing done. Every day, it's okay. What are we arguing about on Twitter today? What side am I digging in today? Like they don't matter. Nothing they say is anything to do with almost every journalist would rather convince you that thing Donald Trump said was totally A-okay or the worst thing anyone's ever said alive than give you any
No,
news.
but I'm not even talking about partisan arguments. I'm talking about the ability
What I'm saying
of
is the media hysteria is them fighting each other, though. It's not like they're actually like the hysteria is coming from, oh, wow, another person working in a senator's building. Oh, another senator tested positive. Another congressperson's under a self-imposed quarantine. That's where the worry's coming from.
I get that, but I'm just saying we're going to have to ask ourselves a question in the future after this is over. To what extent are we willing to shut down? Because we don't shut down for the common flu that causes 50,000 deaths. So obviously, societies and the average American is content with the idea that there's a certain amount of risk involved in everyday life. You can still get H1N1. You can still get avian flu. You can still get the bird flu. You can still get polio, for heaven's sakes. If you don't get vaccinated, there's still countries and areas that suffer with polio and Ebola. So the Rona is going to be added to a long list of potentially fatal diseases, especially this one, which is respiratory. And we're going to have to figure out as a society how much risk we are willing to take. And I think the good thing coming out of this is that emergency protocols will be put in place that won't require so much shutdown. That's what I really think. I think that all the world leaders are now realizing, wow, all this crap that we've been told about being prepared is actually necessary. You know, I mean, and oh yeah, we really do have to have stockpiles of these N95 masks in case there is a problem.
Well, no, they're gonna have the CDC tell us, oh no, you don't even need them. They don't work until they. No, I think it was the who was telling us we don't need them until. Oh yeah, now you do, and that was hilarious. They changed their mind. Oh, now we totally do need them, and we should have been wearing them the whole time. Thank you. I'm just saying, like, none of these organizations are responding well at all, right? Like, everyone's failing, I guess.
So we all turn into preppers and realize they were right the whole time, right? Isn't that what we're supposed to? I was early to this party, man. I was early to the prepper party.
What?
So, I got all my stuff, man.
Well,
I'm ready, dog.
But it's not even about it's not about prepping. I'm just saying that like the reason why the reaction's been so serious to this is because it's a serious thing. It's being reacted to seriously. I don't know. I definitely agree that there's probably going to be, generally speaking, you don't get freedoms back once you give them up. You just don't.
Yeah.
Like it's just there's there's a lot of things in life that once that door's open and it doesn't close again, like
Yep.
certain, I don't know. I guess I can just keep running through cliches, right?
Yeah.
Certain bridges that once crossed.
Once you cross them,
once you cross that bridge,
they burn behind you.
Yeah, exactly. but the point being is, it is going to be weird to see how we rebound from that. I mean, I think I've seen states. I think June. I think I've seen states talking about
some have
mandatory
said as late
lockdowns
as
through
June.
June. Yeah, which is great. I mean, that is especially because
That's untenable.
do you think
Absolutely
not
untenable.
problem? They can say through
Yeah.
June and then change their mind. Because also here's the problem too: is how long are people, dude, living out here? No one where we live really cares at all. I've never seen so many people aimlessly wandering through the street with their entire families before my entire life. So now, I mean, like in the street, just in my neighborhood, just aimlessly 5 people wide, taking up all the space, just walking around, wandering. Got nowhere to be, nowhere to go, just wandering around out there. And it's like, do people? It isn't a snow day, you know.
Yeah.
It isn't. It
a snow day.
isn't President's Day. Like, there's a reason why you're not at work. There's a reason why the kids aren't at school. It's not. It's not because our glorious leader built a rocket ship. No, there's like no other reason besides like you're not supposed to be outside. And just today, I'm driving over here. I just see people hanging out at the park. They're all like on a knee in a circle talking to each other. Like
Wow.
they just finished playing a game. What?
Rock on.
No, it's ridiculous.
Well, it could be a family unit that just lives in their own house.
Okay, no,
and
I'm sure that's what it is. They're all just family units, and people just don't care, and whatever. If they don't care, they don't care. It's just the longer people don't care, the longer these phony lockdowns drag out until they become mandatory real lockdowns, and then those are enforced very strictly.
Hey, so
generally,
Mental Messiah has a question, and I want to get your opinion on this, Cody. Mental Messiah says a lot of these dangerous viruses seem to come from China. How long can this continue without their government facing any consequences on a global level? Dude, what do you think's going to happen?
I got a
man?
question. Ask the World Health Organization that same question. See what they tell you. Ask the WHO if they have any. Because there's another thing too, though. A lot of them I think come out of like China because geographically China is just basically East Asia. Like most of like the landmass of like Far East Asia is China. From what I understand. Doing some geography. I guess you got some with Siberia, India. India also makes up a lot of space, right? You got the Mongolia there between Russia and China.
You got the Mongolia.
I understand there's other nations, but you know what I mean? Like as far as
Yeah.
if any disease were to just come from East Asia in general, it's probably going to be from where most people in East Asia live, which I guess India as well, but I don't know. I think that is part of it, but then also part of it is the Chinese government definitely is not, I don't know. I don't trust them at all. So, but like, when are they going to pay repercussions? I will say one thing that's worrying me is the rhetoric between China and America is getting kind of out of hand. I mean, China published a paper on United States human rights violations, I think 2 weeks ago. We've seen both. Here's the thing too. Like when this whole thing ends, I don't want to get into like conspiracies or like any like weird, but like when this whole thing ends, we're going to have to come to grips with the fact that state-sponsored media operatives from both the United States and China spent this entire time accusing each other of intentionally manufacturing this disease in their country to release in the other country.
Yeah.
Like at a certain point, when this is all said and done, we're going to have to reconcile, hey, remember when you said we did this on purpose? Yeah, remember when you said we did this on purpose?
Yeah.
Like, that's going to come to a head eventually. It's funny on Twitter because Chinese people aren't allowed to use Twitter, so if someone's a Chinese official on Twitter, yeah, they work for the government. Like, you're not allowed to use Twitter if you're in China otherwise.
Yeah.
They have it sucks though because it's for as a non-Chinese person, it's tough to get on is it Weibo? I think it's one of them.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah, anyway, they're a Weibo or whatever. I remember I used to be when I was a Dota 2 fan. I still am a Dota 2 fan, but I used to play a lot of Dota 2. One of the most prominent Dota 2 players, one of the biggest Dota 2 streamers, RTZ, his team signed a massive deal with a streaming site out of China. It was ridiculously difficult to watch that, but it's cool, and his numbers are insane because he was in China. He had like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views, but I don't know. I just always think it's funny when I see like random Chinese people on Twitter. It's like, wait, hold on a minute. Like I'm from Beijing and I work here, and it's like, wait, you're like literally not allowed to be on Twitter as far as I understand it. Same way we're not allowed to go on your platforms, which kind of sucks. But I don't know. I don't want to get into, like I said, I don't want to get into, but I just.
You mean how China's screwing us?
Well, but because you think America's just sitting on our hands? You think, oh, we're so stupid over here. Trust me, we're
yeah,
giving it
kind
to
of,
them.
just a little bit.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see when they. I don't know. I wonder how much of the I don't know. Maybe China's just railroading America. I have a feeling. Don't sleep on the scummy, awful American corrupt. Like, as much as, like, think about people like Hillary Clinton's a great example. As much as I don't like Hillary Clinton, like, dude, if she was our president, the things she'd be doing behind the scenes in China would be ridiculous. So, she'd be, like, talking about Russia and just, like, screwing these people as hard as possible. It's one thing. Honestly, if we were to go into a war, if we were attacked, I can't say I would prefer it because I believe much more lives would have been lost. But I think Hillary Clinton would have gone scorched earth on the opponent way before Donald Trump ever would have.
You think so?
Oh, she was a hawk. And remember when she was Secretary of State?
Well, yeah, my fear was that she would start a bunch of wars.
Her whole thing was that's what I mean. I wouldn't want to, but her whole thing was like killing leaders with drones. Anyway, that's a long aside. But anyway, to get back to the topic at hand about China be held responsible for I do think it'd be goofy to hold China responsible for just being a densely populated part of a large geographic region, because it's like that's not where MERS came from, that's not where Ebola came from. Like it's where some things have come from, but there's different things that come from everywhere. What was the one that came from America? There's one that, well, by the way, what was mad cow disease? I don't even remember mad cow, but you know what I mean? Like
mad cow disease was in England.
Yeah, England. There we go. But you see what I mean? Like they come from all over the world. So, but I think the reason why it's kind of one of those things where it's like, how many people live in China? How big is China? How many giant cities? I didn't know Wuhan existed until a few weeks ago. I guess it's like the size of Chicago, and they have like 20 of them. You know what I mean? That's what I think, but I do agree, to your point. The fact that we have government officials blaming the other country for intentionally starting a global pandemic, that probably will come to a head at some point. I can't see it not. Maybe I'm being crazy,
so?
But well, there's gonna be like, no hard feelings. No, when the Chinese had ambassadors on Twitter talking about how Donald Trump intentionally was creating the virus to kill Chinese people, with no hard feelings. And then when we were in turn saying that you were lying about everything and you were basically shooting people into space to hide that was going on. No hard feelings, right? We'll just get over it. I don't know. The rhetoric coming out of both China and America right now is flaring up pretty high. Maybe there'll be like a, hey, cooler heads
Which
prevail.
one's telling the truth, Cody?
That was a crazy... Neither.
Oh,
don't believe any government about anything. They're always lying. Well, okay, I don't want to be like, don't believe them, they're lying. But what I'm saying is almost every government always has... just in their best interest, it's best to not be totally transparent and forthcoming. It's just not wise for them to do so, as I wouldn't expect them to. That's why whenever I get information from a country, I'm like, okay, but I have to remember they're also releasing this to try to control some image here.
Okay, I hear you. So I got a couple of interesting comments here. Mental Messiah brings up India is also very populated, but surprisingly they don't have a reputation for exporting pandemics. That's true. I think a lot of it's cultural.
But how about is travel out of India just lower than travel out of China?
Talking about exporting the Chinese culture is just so much more dishonest. If you actually look at the leadership there, this concept of, I did what I had to do in order to pull the margin that I had, like it's the acceptance level of dishonesty in reporting, in business, there is so much higher than in the Western world. That's just a fact, and nobody likes to say that. But the CCP is literally a bunch of liars. Like, all of us get angry and say, oh, well, he's a liar. Like, in America, we get angry if a politician spins something. Okay? They downright lie in other countries. And in China, it's beyond downright lie. It's like lie to your face when the evidence is right there. I mean, the American embassy was testing their air, and it was like more petroleum parts per million of unburnt diesel fuel than exists in the worst, most contaminated area in the United States of America. And China's like, no, our air is clean. You know, it's like, what? Like I mean, you know, it's to such a point where it is just toxic. It's like a tumor that needs to be isolated. And I'm hoping,
but it's an authoritarian state. That every authoritarian state functions
that
the same
all
way.
of us
They
allow to
control
manufacture
everything.
our goods because they lie about their money value. So I'm hoping the Western world will reject this business model and say, no, this business model is what got us sick. So we're not going to deal with you unless you raise to these standards, and you will no longer be self-reporting because we don't trust you and we know you're liars. We're going to send our third-party people to verify.
You know what? those third-party people, when they're going there to verify, just bring the declaration of war, because I'm sure China's going to say, oh, no, cool, yeah, we'll just take the blame. We're just going to roll over, export. Yeah, you know what? Everyone taking their manufacturing out of our country and blaming us for a global pandemic and seeking damages, whatever, dude. Not biggie. We'll just get over it. I don't know. I don't see that happening. I definitely think that's of all the nonsense going on around, that's what I have my biggest eye on. The relations between a lot of countries seem to be hitting low points that aren't good to see. I mean, we've heard some scattered reports, not happening widespread, but scattered reports of various medical supplies being seized at different European borders that are supposed to be heading to different European countries.
Yeah, there was a
Just
bunch of
weird
face
stuff
masks
going
headed
on.
to England, and they got seized in France.
Yeah, just a bunch of weird
And they
stuff
said,
going on.
look, this is European Union shipment. You're no longer in the European Union, so we are commandeering this shipment. Ooh, now we're playing hardball. Bare knuckle EU boxing, man.
Hey, it would be pretty funny if Germany uses this period of time to get an EU army put together. That'd be kind of cool.
Dude.
Because then we'd have the EU army. How about this? How about like the Russian military is in Italy right now? You know that? There's
Wow.
Russian military vehicles in Italy today.
Oh, what do you know?
Oh,
They're
maybe, hold on.
assisting with the lockdown.
I can't
huh?
guarantee it today. Maybe they were a couple days ago. Well, no, the Russians have been helping the Italians. They have. So I'm not gonna like say it's like evil, but it's interesting to know. I mean, if 3 weeks ago, not 3 weeks ago, let's say 6 months ago, I told you had been Russian military vehicles in Italy, you'd be like, that's weird. But they're helping them out. They're providing aid. I mean, Russia's got the luxury of being a massive but spacious country. It's kind of like Canada, right? Like
Yeah.
it's huge, but like people are kind of spread out. There's not.
Yeah,
There's
the
a lot
vast
of,
majority are
lot
huddled
of
into
empty
three major cities on the western
Because by all accounts, I haven't heard Russia doing too bad during this yet, despite sharing a border with. But again, the border they share with China is the tundra. It's literally Siberia, I believe. Or no? Oh no, it's
No, it wouldn't be Siberia. It's the southeast.
Yes.
Siberia is in the north.
Yes.
That's the border they share with the Arctic Ocean in Canada.
But I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm very curious to see how the world will react to what you cannot say the irresponsibility of China, because at this point we just know that for 2 weeks they were summoning from all Chinese headed companies all the medical equipment for 2 weeks while allowing their people to continually travel to and fro.
That's just what we know now. Imagine what we might find out later.
And by the way, if you want to be really cynical and be geopolitical, let me tell you, if I wanted to expand my influence in the world, I would leverage the political correctness of the Western world to not, I would send out as many sick people as I could. I get as much of the world sick as I could. Allow them to travel to every single place. I would lie about my numbers for as many weeks as I possibly could to get as many of my little infectious citizens out into every part of the world that I knew couldn't handle it, because I'm fine with burning the bodies. That's literally what's going on in their minds, man.
How do you know?
How
do you know, man? Was that your previous life? Are they in the room with us right
As
now?
a bloodthirsty dictator?
How do you know that? I mean, yes, I do agree. I do think authoritarian states will always lie to protect themselves, because that's kind of
and
the
they don't
idea.
value the life of their own citizens in as much as it doesn't serve their dictatorship.
They probably don't, but still, I'm less interested in getting into the psyche of these alleged dictators I've never spoken with in my life, and I've never seen in person. I know what they look like, I've seen pictures of them, but I'm less interested in getting into their minds, and more just talking about what's literally going on.
So we got some questions here.
Shady stuff's going on. There's no doubt. I've been following this stuff for months. Yeah, shady stuff was going on around there. I mean, it was kind of interesting how quickly it went from, oh no, what are you talking about? Nothing's wrong in Wuhan, to, okay, you can't leave the city. It happened basically overnight, by the way. Yeah, crazy stuff happened, but at the same time, I don't know. I'm not in their heads. I'm not. I don't have I'm not able to astral project into the minds of Chinese dictators and then astral project back into my own body. I'm not that woke yet. I haven't hit the Joe Rogan DMT class stage where I'm able to do that quite yet. But there is weird,
no. But if you're
shady
playing
stuff
war
going
games in your mind, and you're thinking, okay, I'm China. I can't out-engineer Europe. I can't I can say out-manufacture now. We used to out-manufacture them, at least in terms of, I can't out-manufacture.
But
I can't out-engineer the military-industrial complex in the United States of America, but I can spread disease and weaken them.
I think China's more interested on moving that line in the South Chinese Sea on the maps a little bit. Like, there isn't this isn't a James Bond film, dude. Like, there's stuff within China I'm sure the Chinese government's focused on There's their own borders. They might want to creep and expand here and there. Like, global domination through pathogens sounds like a movie. It doesn't like real life. Real life governments, even corrupt ones, are focused on what's going on inside their borders. They're I don't know. I don't think that this is our plan. This is it, boys. We're doing it, boys. We're taking over. I don't think it's that, man. I definitely think there's a lot of stuff going on. I think it's a reason why, by and large, we have decided massive authoritarian superstates are bad things. I think China's exhibiting why the massive authoritarian superstate government platform or structure doesn't work for humanity. The same thing happens every single time. Everyone's lying to protect this state because the superorganism must survive. And then at that point, human beings are just getting sacrificed to protect the body. I don't know.
Yeah, so Nicholas brings up a point that they were shaking hands with world leaders during the crisis after they knew about the outbreak. Tisk, tisk. More proof of my thesis. Mental Messiah says, I feel sad that Asian Americans are facing increased blame and harassment, though. I haven't seen any of that where we live, but then again, our Southern California is unique.
I've also been staying inside, but
we've always been a melting pot.
Yeah. But I also
my
agree,
heart breaks if it's true.
It's dumb because it's dumb for many ways that, like, we'll say one thing though. It's a win for the Chinese government that they've been able to they're able to trick some dumb people into hating Asian people instead of. It's like, no, dude, the Chinese government are real human beings that are doing a thing. It's nothing to do with them being Chinese. They're government actors that represent a state which is doing bad things on the world stage, right? But they have spun it to a point where people. It's like, I thought it was funny. Like they're not funny. That's the wrong word for it. But like the ridiculousness of people like not going to like Korean restaurants, like Thai restaurants. It's like, I mean, you're more likely to get sick with some dude who does business in China and travels there and back 5 times a month anyway, who goes to the same Whole Foods as you. But hey, I don't know. You're right. Maybe going to the Thai restaurants and like that was really dumb stuff we were seeing. But it is interesting how I don't want to say it's like the master plan of the Chinese government, but it has happened where there has been some blame deflected on just like I said, just forget what country it is. It's literally a government doing things that we don't, by and large, most countries have agreed we shouldn't be doing anymore. Like lying about these things and killing. I mean, not killing, but it's crazy how many people that were whistleblowers ended up dying of the virus themselves shortly after. But yeah, I don't know. I think we need. I almost feel like the English language needs another word for, like, a state actor of a country that isn't the same word as a resident of the country. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying.
It's like no, I'm not talking about
because when you say the Chinese, you don't know if you're talking about the authoritarian CCP or whether you're talking about the people themselves
or the Dota 2 players that I watch stream and I don't think are evil people. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be a better word for the government actors in the country. I guess like the Chinese government would be the best way, but you know what I mean? Because there's obviously definitely every government. I mean, I think it's fine to do. It's like I have so many things I take exception that the American government does. Like the thing that I wouldn't take exception with things other governments do. It's like, I take exception with things basically every government does. American government does awful, atrocious things. I remember when George W. Bush, say whatever you want about W. I honestly don't hate him as much as some people. He did kill a bunch of whales for no reason for years. He was running like sonar tests. Now, I've heard both stories. I've heard that, these are just animal rights people going crazy. But it seems to me that he kept losing lawsuits from people saying these sonar tests are pointless and whales are dying. And I'm going to do them. So, U.S. government does crazy stuff. Barack Obama, crazy thing. He's a little feather in his cap. First president on record that we know of. So I take that back. No way he's the first. First one on the record.
To kill over 51% of businesses with his bad economy during his tenure? No. Yes, you're right. He was the first president.
Get out of here. I don't care about that. No. He's the first president, I believe, though, to order the extrajudicial killing of an American citizen.
Oh, yeah. Through the drone strikes. Exactly. And that's why Rand Paul filibustered.
I think on record. I can guarantee you there's been a ton of mafia hits conducted by American presidents over the lifetime of this country.
Hey, do you know the names of some of them?
Of what?
The paramilitary organizations in the CIA that were specially tasked with carrying out the extrajudicial desires of the president. I think under the Reagan administration was called the Health Alteration Committee or something like that, where they alter the health. The woman that was interviewed on Joe Rogan with her book, not about Operation Paperclip, but I can't remember who it was. He doesn't have a ton of female guests in comparison to the ratio of male guests that he has. But one of the more recent ones from this past year wrote a really interesting book about a lot of the covert action that America has engaged in. And yeah, she was talking about that exact same thing.
Yeah. Well, there's a thing. Whenever we get into like America's messing around too much in the Middle East, it came up again during like the Soleimani Iran stuff.
Yeah.
The notion that America's the Great Satan gets brought up a lot, and I have to admit, man, the more I look into, I'm not going to defend when people call America the Great Satan. I'm not going to be like, no,
because you don't know what your country's doing.
No, the American government's not that. I'm like, yeah, I guess like if I wasn't America and I was like especially like a government in the Middle East, I probably would think America's the Great Satan. Like I think it's like indefensible the things we do. But with that same logic, I can only imagine what other countries do. 'Cause I do think with that in mind, America's still a really good country, and by governmental standards does try to do the best by it. Maybe it doesn't try to do the best by its people. It's bound by its constitution to give more freedoms to its people than other countries are. Some good things about it. But yeah, I don't think our government officials care that much more than any other country's government officials. I think it's just the way the system's built works a little better for Americans. But yeah, like the stuff we do is pretty.
Or maybe because we were more of a church-going people,
that's
blessed by God in the expansion of both our economic and moral superiority. We spread like wildfire. Actually, there's some interesting data to support that. Ireland and the United States of America are the only countries that have a disproportionate amount of church attendees. Isn't that kind of wild? By a huge margin, by like 40%, dude.
Yeah, that's. I just think it more comes
so
from
maybe
the
it
fact
made us a more transparent culture, and transparency helps economics thrive.
This is what happened. There was 2 wars so large they were referred to as the Great Wars.
And why did we win them? Because we're a moral people that were willing to fight.
Wait, dude, you ever looked at a map?
Yeah, I've looked at a map.
Okay.
We got Canada in the north and Mexico in the south.
It's not
a vicious
it's
enemy
not even that.
On both borders.
What American city was destroyed in the First Great War? And then before it was fully rebuilt, destroyed again in the Second Great War. Which American city was it? Which city in America did the Chinese burn down? And then which city in America did the Americans burn down? Like none, dude. Pearl Harbor happened. That was tragic, but none. We had no. Dude, do you remember what we were doing in World War II? Know what they loved to do in World War II? They loved to blow up bridges, trains, the infrastructure to countries blown up. Rebuilt by Americans and with help from Americans 20 years later. I wonder why the American economy is so good. Because we burned your house down and then let you pay us to rebuild it? Is that why the American economy is doing so good? It's because we were indebted. It's because the Japanese were like indebted to us because we basically showed the greatest hellfire ever shown in humanity on their country twice. Because they were basically just a very, it was very difficult at. You know, it's even like that. There's other stuff. America's good. I like the country. But yeah, that helped, dude. That helped. Not having our capital burned to the ground helped. Not having the capitals of infrastructure bombed weekly. Hell, even think about it. England, London, they held out, right? They were being air raided in London, dude. Factories in London were getting targeted by planes to blow up.
So speaking
in
of
1941, right? When was the Battle of Britain? I mean, yes, dude. America not sustaining any of those things really gave us a leg up on everyone else that did.
I still think a very large portion of it was the general morality and transparency of our culture in comparison to others. Hashtag just saying. But we got a question here that I wanted to answer. And, I lost the person that was the chatter that asked it. But they said, I've heard that there's tanks in Los Angeles. I'm in Fresno. Are there tanks in Los Angeles? I don't know how to answer that question.
I haven't seen any of them. I'm not like in LA City.
Yeah, we're not in LA City, but I've been down there because we have to go down there. Not tanks, but I think,
like APC stuff?
Well, I was about to say, what do you call the MRAPs the LAPD has? I mean,
APCs, armored personnel carriers.
Yeah. We see LA kind of has its own miniature army. So oftentimes the average layperson says, "Oh my gosh, they're rolling through tanks on our street." And they're not tanks that are military tanks. They're ex-military tanks that have been allowed to be purchased by the LAPD. And, they don't have the big, 3,000 caliber cannon on the top. But they're armored transport vehicles that were meant to be able to sustain IED blasts in Iraq and Afghanistan that have basically been painted black with an LAPD logo put on there. And then they go around... and they're anti-riot, they're personnel carriers, if there's any types of, domestic strife, and they kind of look like tanks, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, I think get to the semantic argument of does it need like a turret that moves?
Yeah.
Are those tanks? Does it have to have full? I would definitely say probably full tracks on both sides, right?
That
That's
would
like
be the
minimum
insinuation.
for a tank.
Yeah.
I think wheels. You're not a tank if you have wheels. I think tanks
Yeah.
have tracks. I'll take that definition. But even then, like what? Like so, anything with tracks is a tank.
Oh well,
the earliest tanks, as far as I understand, the very first tanks, they were called tanks. They did not all have. Most of them, I think, did not have turrets. They're basically just boxes with tracks. That was it.
And I do have to throw this in here while we're talking about tanks, dude. Did you know that in California, tanks are street legal as long as they have turn signals? You can straight up have a tank because you don't need a windshield. You know what I'm saying? And you have, I'm sorry, it also needs headlights. So as long as you have a license plate, turn signals, you can either put on rear view mirrors or you can have those little side adjustment viewfinder thingies. But as long as you have the proper equipment installed on your tank, you can straight up drive like a Sherman or a Panzer right down Main Street. How ill would that be? How sick would that be to show up on like a date or to show up to school or to church or just show up somewhere and you're like just riding a like 1956, Cold War military surplus tank that's guzzling like 20 gallons of diesel every 2 minutes. You don't think that'd be awesome, dog? Going 45 down a 50 in a tank.
No.
You don't think that would be awesome to own a street legal tank? You don't think that would be the ultimate flex on Logan Paul and his freaking Lamborghinis?
No, unless you're going full Killdozer, then no. Having a let me tell you something. There's nothing to me lamer than me putting a license plate and turn signals on my tank so it's street legal. It's a tank. You gonna pull me over? I'll pull my tank over. You know what I mean? Like that. What's the point of owning a tank if it's all these concessions have been made to please the government? Oh, please, Mr. Government, can I ride my tank on your roads, please? No, I wouldn't own a tank for that reason.
Dude, in a heartbeat.
Someone brought something up I thought was interesting. Someone said I think we bombed Philly in the 80s, but I'm not 100 on it. No, was it the 70s we bombed Philly or the 80s?
What do you mean bombed Philly?
When they blew up that neighborhood in Philadelphia.
What?
They don't remember that? Pull it up.
No, you're talking about like military bombing? Or are you talking about when you say they, was it a terrorist bombing or?
No, the government did it.
Oh, you mean when you're talking about the you were showing me on Wikipedia earlier?
No, I'm not talking about that.
Okay. Hit me.
Pull it up. We'll talk about this. This is a real thing that I have to admit, I'm not like an expert on this thing. That's a real thing that happened. The day Philadelphia bombed some people. It's a story Vox put together. An oral history of the 1985 police bombing that changed the city forever. So you're right, it was the 80s. We did bomb Philadelphia in the 80s. So I guess by it was the Philly PD did it. But yeah, let's see. On the evening.
Now, did they plant bombs or did they just have heavy explosive grenade launchers used in a SWAT incident?
You can look at the picture and tell me what you think. On the evening of May 13th, 1985, longstanding tension between MOVE, a black liberation group, and the Philadelphia Police Department erupted horrifically. That night, the city of Philadelphia dropped a satchel bomb, a demolition device typically used in combat, laced with Tovex and C4 explosions on the MOVE organization who were living in a West Philadelphia row home known to be occupied by men, women, and children. It went up in unextinguished flames. 11 people were killed, including 5 children and the founder of the organization. 61 homes were destroyed, and more than 250 citizens were left homeless. As they mentioned in here, I do believe it wasn't like a massive explosion that blew it. A bomb went off that started big fires that burned everything down.
Okay.
It wasn't like, force blew all these things down, but you can see the houses in the middle. No, yeah, they basically exploded and then fire spread across. So yeah, that was you can look into all the drama and the politics behind it. There won't be enough time because I'm pretty sure it's one of those things we could be here all night talking about, but I do believe I've looked into it a little bit. I think this was just obviously the Philadelphia PD over,
how does this not get as much press as Waco?
This is never justified blowing. Yeah, it's a good question, right? That sounds like one of those. It's a good question. Why is it? Maybe, it does. You're right. Because we talk about Waco. Honestly, I think it's because because Waco was more dramatic.
No, it's because Waco's Republican.
No,
and Philly's Democrat, and the mainstream media is defending Democrats.
You could say Philly was. You could say because Waco was white people and Philly was black people. You can make that comparison. I think part of it is it was a less dramatic standoff. One, like they just blew
That's
them up.
true.
And yes,
Yeah.
there was a big movement in the 80s and 90s in America to start. They would do this thing where they would come to terms. Like you'll notice there was a lot of people that were people that were in government when stuff like this was going on. They want to come to terms with the racism of 1776. They don't want to come to terms with the racism of 1985. That was when I was still in office.
Yeah.
Let's not come to terms with that. Let's come to terms with the Civil War. Let's come to terms with Jim Crow. Not with when we blew up a neighborhood and burned it down. Don't come to terms with that quite yet because, my donors were still giving me money in 85. I don't know. I think that's why you'll start hearing about this stuff more and more. It's because, I could be wrong, but if a black liberation group was bombed by the Philadelphia Police Department in 1985, maybe it was just a coincidence. Like, what do you know? What a coincidence. But I don't know.
Hey, do you know how much an MRAP costs?
Depends on a lot, right?
Okay, $200,000 on average. And I just sent you in Discord a couple of pics. The first one is one of the LAPD MRAPs, and it is one of those pictures for ants. I apologize. So you don't have to put it up if you don't want to, or else you can keep it small. And the second one is a street legal tank, my man, with headlights installed. And it doesn't look goofy. It actually looks pretty sick.
That looks really stupid.
No, come on. Let the audience decide.
By the way,
the audience decide.
It broke the first category on our tank.
Yeah, you mean the wheels or the
It's got wheels, which I thought was like the
But look at that.
one.
It's got some headlights, got some turn signals.
I don't know.
You wouldn't want to show up to a party in that.
You gotta search beyond the 240p Wikipedia.
No, yeah, that's a tiny picture.
These are...
Okay, so that's what the MRAPs in LA look like, and yeah, they're pretty intimidating. But yeah, that tank. You don't think that tank is epic, man?
No.
Okay, I want to see it from the chat. How many people think that tank would be awesome and you want to show up into a party? 1 for yes, showing up to the party in a street legal tank. 2 for no, not showing up in the party with a street legal tank and not even going to the party because you're afraid you're going to get Rona. So you just play video games remotely with Cody the Oracle.
Dude, the notion that, like I said, as soon as you've begged Mr. Government to let you drive this tank on your roads, why do you own a tank? I don't know. I feel like you own a tank to be free. You know what I mean? You own a tank to say, go on, pull me over, pull my tank over.
Seattle KO says, so it looks like Batman's Tumbler.
Pretty much, yeah.
Does kind of look like the Tumbler.
What are the ones for? Shoot.
Dude, everybody's saying 1, man, for showing up with the tank, buddy.
Because, okay, but remember, tanks aren't like, it's not like a Toyota. You don't just like, they have most of, I guess you can probably drive it without a
you've
crew.
got the 2 sticks. And you're
like, what? Normally, if I remember correct, if I know correctly,
only one person said no to the tank. Oh, and so did Alan G. Man, every party has a pooper. Every party has a pooper. That's why we invited Alan G. and Karaoke. All the rest. Oh, and Grant Cleveland. Everybody else recognizes the awesomeness that is showing up with a street legal tank.
I feel like tanks are unnecessarily big, loud, noisy, and smell bad. But
that's the awesomeness, dude. So you don't think that a Lamborghini?
Hey, why don't you show up riding on an elephant? It's like it's kind of big, goofy, and impractical. I don't know. That's why I think it seems kind of big, goofy, and impractical to me.
Okay, so here's the last question because we are rounding the corner here on our 1 hour live stream.
And you think about this, Mr. Government, after you beg and plead to Mr. Government to let you drive your tank on his roads, you're going to destroy his roads and he's going to make you pay for them. So, yeah.
No, but see, the thing is, as long as it's below the weight limit, dude, like semis do more damage than a tank does because a semi weighs more. So, check this out, guys.
They don't have tank tracks, though. Semis have rubber wheels.
Yeah, but the weight displacement on a track is actually far more spread out than it's
literally just ripping and pulling on the asphalt.
And you put rubber tracks down. They retread these things all the time. So look at this, guys. I gotta know. This is my last question because we actually already are over time right now. We're in extra minutes. What do you think would be cooler in a party? Showing up to a party in a street legal tank that had blanks that you could fire at the party, or a trained elephant showing up to the party with a trained elephant that could do tricks? Which is cooler to show up to your hypothetical party, an elephant or a tank? I want to know.
Can I pick neither?
D to the rail notices that an Abrams tank is 5 gallons to the mile. I wouldn't be surprised.
Pretty bad.
You go 5 miles to your friend's house, you burn through a 25-gallon tank, $75 in gas.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm just talking about the practicality. Also, like I said, having some weird neutered street legal tank. If I had like a legit modern Abrams tank, that'd be kind of cool. Is that still the model tanks they use now? The Abrams, kind of cool.
I don't know what the
super
modern
high
tanks
tech,
are.
fancy. And like I said, street legal. Tell you what, they can stop me if they want. They can come tell me my tank isn't street legal if that's what they want to do.
So we're getting a lot of people saying the tank, a street legal tank with live rounds, says Tankalodian.
That's what I mean. Why have a street legal? You have a tank. I'm cool with just a tank.
Spray water with the elephant. You know, I got to tell you that I actually think I might be down for the elephant too. That's pretty tough, but the tank's pretty rad. You know, I almost feel like the elephant is slightly more common because people used to seeing them in all kinds of exhibitionary events, whereas a tank, nobody's seen a street legal tank.
Those are the modern new tanks.
Yeah, like you don't tell me you can't tell me a military surplus tank like that would not be completely sick.
I don't think that'd be surplus. I think that's just the modern tanks. Those are cool. I would. I think
you'd roll up in that, bro.
I think the new tanks go like 40. I wouldn't show up to a social function in that.
Well, what would you show up to if not a social function? What, to work?
It's a good question. Where would I show? Where would I show up with my tank? I don't know.
To a protest or
what?
what?
I don't know. I don't know who would get visited by me in my tank. That'd be interesting. We have to find out who that is. I don't know.
Jeez. Crazy. So,
oh, look at on that front, certain versions of a minigun are legal to own, but shoot so fast you'd burn through $100 ammo. It's like, yeah, you'd be surprised the small arms you are able to own in this country as well, especially like through certain guns that have been like grandfathered in from like there's like the National Firearms Act allows for. You'd be surprised the kind of guns you could just own in this country. It is pretty interesting. A lot of them though come from mostly being historical or antique weapons.
Yeah.
Like I believe you're allowed to own antique machine guns, like Maxim guns, and like you're allowed to own those.
They have to be decommissioned.
If I was, that's the thing. If I was rich though, I would own.
Do you know what they do so you can own them legally?
I think they mess with the firing pin, probably. They just don't shoot.
No, they pour cement. You have to pour cement in the barrel.
Why? That doesn't make any sense. I can just change the barrel.
No, it goes through and then it ruins all the mechanisms inside.
Oh, okay. Yeah, either way.
So you're required to pour cement down the barrel.
Yeah. Still, I would have that as if I had a big house, because they're big. It's a big piece. So if I had a big house, though, I'd have that as just like an interest piece, an old, World War I Maxim gun. That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be kind of cool.
It'd be a little bit morbid and grim because you're like, hey, you want to hear something funny? In World War I,
this changed the world forever.
In the Great War, both the Germans and was it the French or the English, but both sides of the war used the same gun, so it technically killed more people than any other gun in almost any war for hundreds of years. Isn't that something? Well, anyway, welcome to my place. Yeah.
So Fred Trunk brings up
it'd be in the back.
Fred Trunk brings up a point. Do you remember this, Cody? Some guy back in the 90s stole a tank. It didn't end well.
Well, I believe we're talking about the Killdozer. I remember Killdozer. Oh my God, I remember him. Yeah. Well, I don't think if you're talking about Killdozer, he didn't steal a tank. He built a tank. The story of
Dude, look at that. That is gnarly.
I want to find. This is like a weird fact check, but no, I mean, it is true. A guy did do this.
So you can't really call that a tank quite yet.
Why not? It's an armored vehicle with tread.
No, that's true. That's true.
But if you're talking about Killdozer,
it's a Caterpillar that's been modified into a tank.
There was a guy who did steal a tank a year ago, I believe. Military guy stole a tank, and that did. Yeah, but the kill. Yeah, it was a but I mean, it was a bulldozer until it was plated with armor or something. Get a tank. I don't know.
Yeah,
yes, that did happen.
Man, we've seen some really crazy stuff here. Was that in L.A.? That wasn't in L.A., was it?
No.
That looks like something redneck.
Colorado.
Oh, Colorado. Okay, Colorado's kind of like half redneck, half high.
L.A. Yeah,
half hippie.
Someone drove a
half
bulldozer through it. Yeah,
it's a lot of halves. So anyway, I thought all the weird stuff happened in Los Angeles and New York. I just remember do you remember the North Hollywood shootout, Cody? Or are you too young?
No, I remember it.
You remember it? Yeah, that was pretty wild, man. So anyway,
they made a movie about it. on FX.
Oh, I forgot. I wanted to see that, but I didn't.
It's pretty good. It was interesting.
Okay.
There's one anecdote from the movie I think is real, where a guy got shot and he dove into a doctor's office. It was a police officer. He dove into a doctor's office, and it was a dentist. So all they could do is like shoot him up with like the painkillers they have for like dental surgery until they could get someone to actually help him.
Oh, dang it. That sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
Well, it's better than
Nothing, right?
Better than nothing, yeah. So anyway, any last questions? Get them out of your system right now. We're about to end the chat. You guys are freaking awesome and hilarious. Cody, you got anything else you want to say before you go? Floppy Fricole says, love the new background.
Oh, nice.
Wait until you see the new mouse pads. You know what I'm saying? So, D the Rail makes comments, says the name Tank comes from the cover story for the new secret weapon they were rolling out to cross no man's land between trenches in World War I. Those are just water tanks. That's actually very true. And what's interesting
cool. Yeah,
is...
it does happen a lot.
Yeah, they were water tanks, and it wasn't until the infantrymen started huddling behind them for cover that they realized their usefulness on the battlefield in terms of large-scale production. And one of the first tanks, I believe, that was manufactured was done by an American company that made cars. I think it was Studebaker. There was an American car company that made a tank, and it was actually declared unfit for combat because it was too fast. It was too fast. See, now they want tanks super fast, but the first American, some of the first American tanks that were developed as precursors to the World War II tanks were actually declared too fast. And, dude, those first 20 years of tanks, man, you got to look into it. But that's what made Patton was because he'd figured out tank warfare, and he was developing all of the scenarios, and he was doing war games in between World War I and World War II, and doing these big, massive, long, like going from America to like Panama or something. He would take his tank crews, and that's how they cut their teeth in tank warfare. And apparently he wrote the book on tank warfare because of all that.
Tanks are pretty cool, dude. Tanks
it's
are
pretty rad.
One thing that's weird about tanks that I didn't think about, but it's true. During the war, when they would like destroy tanks, generally speaking, you would disable the tank before you kill everyone inside. And a lot of the times, not always, but a lot of times people would jump out of the tank and run away, and they just kind of be like, well, the tank's dead. I don't have to kill the people. I think I've always thought that's anecdotal, but it's interesting. You hear those anecdotes sometimes amongst, like, you'll notice there's like a sense, even if people are fighting against a war in each other, they're like, yeah, but we are both still tank guys, you know? Like, even if we're fighting a war, we are both still pilots. There's a certain, I could be wrong, but I don't know. I feel like in reading memoirs and books and accounts.
It was that way amongst all the pilots in World War I.
I mean, it was all of them, right? But I think there's just like this sense of like, even though we're fighting against each other, we both do fly planes, and that's weird. I don't know. I just always think that's kind of a humorous kind of I wonder if that happens with the soccer goalies, where they kind of, when they're sitting there waiting around, they kind of feel each other like, hey, or that guy like blows it, like, I feel it, man. I'm glad you blew it, but I know what that feels like. I'm a goalie too. Actually, goalies are crazy people. They probably don't have thoughts, or they probably don't have thoughts I could say on the air. But I don't know.
It's actually funny you say that, because I was a goalkeeper in high school, and that was the recruiting requirement that our English coach said. He said, goalies are the ones that are crazy or stupid enough to do the job. And he looked at me, as like, I'm not sure which one you are. But I was good enough, and I trained hard enough that they put me on JV my freshman year. It was pretty cool. So anyway, one last question. My last question, Cody, is from Marion H. asking, have we started the movie channel yet? And indeed, we've done a lot for it, actually.
Soon, yeah. We will
it's probably over the next couple of days. We're going to record our first podcast. These podcasts require so much more research. So, for example, if we're going to do a podcast about a certain type of genre, I have to watch like 5 of the movies.
I wouldn't say more research, just longer research.
Yeah, much longer research. I mean, we're not just talking about the articles of what happened to Joe Biden, in the morning.
We have to actually watch the whole movie.
You have to watch the whole movie, and then, once you've seen the 3 or 4 top movies of the genre, you develop your opinions.
But also, I've seen all these movies already. You got to watch them. I've already seen these.
I'm catching up with Cody. See, what's weird is, actually not really, because of the AFI Top 100, I had seen 60 of them, and you'd seen 50.
Okay, but a lot of those movies are like, some of those movies I will question. Like, I don't know. There's like, they're the greatest movies, and it's like, yeah, I guess, but do you have to watch them? I don't think so. I watch the ones that are worth watching, but I don't know. It's the bigger thing too is that we have more time to make them. It's not new stuff. New stuff, I try to stay up to date with everything that's going on over the course of a period of time, so when the articles come up, we're ready to cover them, but then it passes. It is kind of fun having more time to breathe on these, not feeling like, well, like, for example, like, the stuff going on with freaking Joe Biden, man. That was the craziest tweet I've read in a while, is that this is the same month that Pete Buttigieg dropped out of the race. I mean, it's just... It feels crazy to me.
I'm just proud that America knows how to pronounce his name.
I mean, at the beginning of this month, wasn't Pete third in the delegates? Because wasn't the...
Oh, dude, yeah, he was crushing it.
I mean...
Yeah.
I don't know. Just how fast that election went away, man. It's crazy. And now we're at a point where we're talking, like our video today, it's like people are asking Andrew, like, people are just desperate for anyone who isn't Joe Biden to replace Joe Biden. But mathematically, he's the only one that can win the... One of the reasons why I am looking forward to spending a week putting together some goofy stuff about some movie videos. Because, yeah, man, this news is getting ridiculous, man. It's every day is just, you want the bad news or the bad news first? I feel like that's every day when I open up my timeline and I go to my I go to the different art, I go to the different publications, I go to the news sources, and it's like, well, you want the bad news or you want the bad news? Where do you want to start this morning? And it's like, God, dude, again and again and again. I mean, at the point now where it's like, I hope the next news I get that, oh, actually, Joe Biden's totally mentally stable. They found a miracle drug.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's like, I'm waiting for some good news.
He will live till he's 100.
Right? Yeah, it was some
we
good news.
We can keep boomers in office for another 40 years.
It's instead, it's people sweating going like, oh my God, how is Biden ever going to be president during this crisis, right? I mean, yeah, maybe people should have thought of that. Like, what's going on with Bernie? We put on Twitter today. Bernie in the betting aggregate, he's behind Hillary Clinton and Andrew Cuomo. It's crazy.
Dude, it's
I mean,
bad.
not by a ton, but just showing that the bettors are saying he's even with them. I mean, it's, I don't know how crazy really a lot of American politics stuff felt. So I felt bad, but somebody put a tweet I thought was funny, and they said, 6 months ago, the biggest problem in America was the clown supervillain movie. Like, think about that. Like, some of the goofy stuff dude, impeachment was 60 days ago.
Dude.
And how all that's kind of gone away now, and it's just all focusing. I mean, it's good reason. Global pandemic. We have something at hand to be discussing instead, but it's really weird. It's really weird how fast it's all shifted like that. How quickly it went from. I saw someone else. Yeah, I have. Who I haven't been seeing on CNN very much.
What?
Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him very often on CNN, so I don't know what happened. I mean, how quickly all that rolled over. They just move it on anyway. Coronavirus 24/7 now.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's really disheartening. It's disheartening to see, but at the same time, it's kind of like maybe sobering's a better word. Like, yeah, I don't know what else we would do, right? I mean, it's very serious issues at hand.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, anyway, guys, make sure you follow us on Twitter at PSP Radio 1. Make sure you also follow us on Instagram or on Facebook or on your favorite podcasting platform. If you haven't had a chance yet, please make sure you like this video before you go. And there's a bunch of you that still haven't subscribed yet, so make sure you subscribe. This has been awesome. This was Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.